So, yeah, getting this thing started, how exactly would you describe what it is that you do? Like what is your work here in this life?
If I was to describe myself in any, I guess, contextual fashion, it would be, yes, ethicist. I would be an ethicist. That would be my focus on the world. And then I would be a teacher. I haven't meditated for, I don't know how many, since I was 9 years old. Um, I'm pretty adept with my mind and introspection and understanding the mental realm and basically how to get a hold of it, how to get it in order, and how to live well within it, how to basically convert your mind into a beneficial friend and tool. And then beyond that, I have my perspective as a philosopher, where just my life experiences filter through what I would call a, unfortunately, there's no better description, what I would call a transcendent perspective. I filter problems, questions, conundrums, paradoxes through my mind, through my opinion, through my perspective, and just disseminate them, in a more entertainment purposes, but also for helpful purposes. So ethicist, teacher, philosopher would be a good way
Oh,
to encapsulate what I do.
that's powerful. Um, so you teach others how to utilize their mind, right? How to
I wouldn't
use it
say
effectively.
you, yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily utilize it. We all utilize our minds, of course. We all have some skill innate, inborn. I think it's more of, how do you say, it's a different perspective, but it's not very different than what the yogic teachers of history have done and what a lot of modern people are doing. I just take it from perspective that I've seen, having really been on the outside of any spiritual practice or anything like that for the majority of my life. Pretty much, I wouldn't say an untainted, but definitely a slightly different take on our subjective experience mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So I've built a model where I necessarily engage in introspection, but for the purposes, I ask people to engage in introspection, but not necessarily for the purposes of seeing or achieving anything, but just to understand their mind, how it actually operates. And I break the mind down into three categories. I distinguish us from our mind. That would be the main thing that I would ask people to begin with, is to just start meditating, sitting still, breathing, just to have a distinction, some perspective and distance between themselves and their mind, to see that we have a mind, we possess a mind, we may be in a mind in a sense, but we are not one and the same lockstep with the mind. You know what I mean? We
Mm-hmm.
can use the mind, we have perspective on the mind, therefore it quite literally can't be us. We can't have perspective on the thing that we are essentially are. You know what I mean? We can have
Yeah.
perspective on a cup because we are not the cup. We
Mm-hmm.
can see it objectively, but we wouldn't be able to do that with the mind if we didn't have the ability to get distance from it. And you can't get distance from what you essentially are. So we get first, how do you say, understanding of, even if it's just perceptual, some distinction. And then we try to understand how this natural process occurs and actually what our role is in intervening and manipulating or steering it in different directions. And it's just essentially three components. The mind mentates, it generates thoughts on its own, just naturally. It's just stimuli, its own energy and processes. And then we have a semi-conscious existence in a sense where we can take these mentated thoughts. Oh, I have a paper due at 3. We weren't thinking about it, and it's brought to us by our own mental processes and happenings. And then we can take action on that. And then we have a third level of completely deliberate conscious thinking. And that's what we have the least ability to do, the least reservoir of will and energy to actualize in a day, maybe a few hours, if we're lucky, a day that we can be focused and deliberately thinking. And that's where we are turning our attention to objects, either stimulating mentation and thoughts, or we are actively taking information and data in our mind or externally and compiling new realities out of that to build, a plan. Like even if you're just planning a vacation, you take the information that you have of available options, resources, time, location, date, and partners to go with you, or, friends to go with you. And then you start constructing that. That doesn't just happen on its own as a mental process. So that would be an example of deliberate thinking, a familiar would. So
Mm.
that's one of the main things. It's just sitting still, breath work, several meditation practices, but mainly just getting familiar with the way your mind works. And the best way to do that, I think, is with meditation, because trying to be someplace while you're constantly being pulled away from that place is the best way to see where you're deliberately trying to be, and what is obviously not you because you're trying to be here, trying to take you away from that. So I
Mm.
think meditation is invaluable. I mean, not
Oh yeah.
necessarily specifically just for spiritual practices. I think I like to take everything and just destroy the whole spiritual context and blanket the entire universe with spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people relegate meditation specifically for spiritual transcendent enlightenment, religious purposes or whatever. I think it's just a natural activity for human health. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can lead in that direction, obviously, if you do it deliberately, but just practically for a day to day existence, I think it's beneficial. So
Yeah. Meditation is huge. I also do believe that it's just something that humans do or we're meant to do in a certain way, is to meditate and to not be so involved with our environment, not be so involved with the noise and the drama of life, is just finding, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes a day. It helps so much. Even just a little bit of time like that, it helps so much, man. Meditation
it's,
is huge.
it's, I mean, I look at it like it's our non physical muscle or organ.
Mm,
If you have leg muscles and you're constantly walking, they're going to fatigue and you're going to deteriorate. Maybe you can still walk and you can push through, but you're going to be less. You're going to be lessened in a less optimal state. So even with our mind, it just needs some reprieve, a chance, just like you said, just to take a step back. And I think you obviously know, but a lot of people haven't done this. They only get these opportunities maybe when they're driving and they're lost in thought, or when they go for a jog or something, or they just get caught up in something in
yeah.
a flow state, but
Mm,
inadvertently. But to deliberately cultivate that state, you obviously, and we both know, and many people know the benefit of the ease of just existence that comes about once you've kind of liberated this from constant activity. It's even if it's just for pleasure, meditation. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
how I began. I began meditating when I was 9, like, and after martial arts, beginning martial arts when I was 9. I started meditating, and I didn't do it for any other reasons other than, oh my God, I feel better. I actually get a little euphoric high. So
Yeah.
it was purely pleasure motivation. And I think wherever people start, whatever their catalyst is to get going, and I think pleasure is obviously one of the most available and approachable. I think it's worth it. So I tell people meditate to get a little high, a little non narcotic dopamine endorphin rush. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I feel that. I
what type,
100%.
what practice do you engage in, if you don't mind me asking?
Um,
What's your meditation style, or do you have a particular style? Or do you just kind of go with it?
it's if you want to classify it in a, yeah, it's with a label, it's like anapanasati meditation, just simple breathing, pranayama meditation. Usually try to do it every day, at least once a day, that's for sure. Before I go to bed, 10, 15, 20 minutes, just simply breathing. Not on my phone, not listening to anything, not watching any, not doing anything other than just following the breath in and out. Simple as that. I also have a yogic practice, um, and also do other breathing meditations. But basically, what I've done for a few years now, pretty much every day, is just simple pranayama meditation. And that is so huge. It seems like nothing, right? It just seems like you're just sitting in a room with your eyes closed. It's like, what is that? Why would I even want to do that, right? It just seems so outside of the paradigm of our modern world. But it's so simple yet so transformative for one's being. So yeah, man, just a simple breathing meditation, which is available for all of us because we're all breathing.
That's
You know?
absolutely right. That's actually the technique. I mean, I'm not sure if I call it what you call it, but I start off with breath work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the most simple, available, and honestly, the easiest to gain results and benefit from, initially for everybody. So yeah, I think that's the one of the most widely used and widely accessible techniques.
Amen to
Do you have
that.
any, do you have any objectives with your meditation, or do you
Um,
simply just do it for personal benefit?
it's a good question, man. Originally, it did start off, like you said, kind of getting high. It was actually more of like a way to mitigate mental illness because that's how I started off on this whole path. Was I never really felt right, There's a sort of depression, anxiety in my life, and I heard that meditation was good for that. I read a few articles on that, so I decided to follow meditation in that way. So maybe in a way, yeah, I did try to get high with it, maybe just not be so low in life, and it did work. That was the objective. But eventually, I've come to lose the objective. There's no objective in it. It's sort of just like, I don't know, tying my shoes before I go out or brushing my teeth. It's just something that we do just because it's like, why not? Why would I not tie my shoes before I leave? Why would I not brush my teeth? It's just something that's just naturally in my life at this point. There is obviously some kind of inadvertent objective in there. There's objective in all of our actions in life, right? It's always in there somehow, but there's less like attachment to having to do it or not having to do it. Like if there's a day or 2 days go by where I don't meditate, it's like whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like it's not that big of a deal. I can always come back into
So it's not an obligation. It's not an obligation.
Yeah, there's no obligation, but I'd like to set some kind of standard, but it's not that big of a deal like how it was when I started. But I do think that's how, if you do eventually want to get to that point where your life becomes a meditation, you do have to be very earnest in that way, where you have to set an obligation and a standard, like to kind of build that mental muscle of, just to have that as a habit in your head. You have to almost like set a schedule with it. And then once you got that down and it's like in your life as a part of your lifestyle, then I think it becomes less objectified and less of an obligation in one's life. That's how I feel. It might be different for everyone else, but that's how I feel.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly how I felt for a long time. Like I said, unfortunately and fortunately, I came to all of this retroactively. I lived my whole life meditating, had no belief or concept of a spiritual practice having any value outside of religion, and things like this. So I do approach all of this with a little less reverence, but I think that also gives me a little bit of like I said, a different perspective to see things as I'm less attached, I say, to rigor and things like this. So that's really, honestly, I grew up Catholic. So I was always avoidant of, how do you say, dogma, practice, rituals, and things like this. So anytime anything became ritualistic or mandated or obligated, I would avoid it. So I've meditated purely, like you said, out of personal benefit and gain until it became something that I didn't even, like you said, didn't even feel a way about if I didn't do it. It was what I did for me, not because I felt like I had to or ought to or should. And I think that's the best place to be. And eventually, like you said, when your life becomes a living meditation.
Yeah.
I think meditation is still beneficial because we still have a brain and mind that is working and functioning and collecting a lot of baggage and issues and problems and just pain points in the world. But, it's less essential on a frequent basis, I would say.
Yeah.
But that's that. Meditation, a lot of people have a lot of opinions on it. Just do it. That's, I think, the biggest piece of advice. Just do it, see what happens, and keep doing it.
Yeah, man. Exactly. Just do it. That's for all modalities, all practices that one could recommend. There's only so much you could read. Just do it.
Yeah. Just do it. See for yourself. I'm a big believer in see for yourself. Listen, take advice, guidance, but check. Find out for yourself. Confirm or deny independently. Go ahead, though. I'm sorry. Sorry for dominating that portion.
I agree, man. That's 100%. That's everything in life. Life becomes like a science like that, I feel. That is the true sage. It's like you become a scientist of yourself. And
absolutely.
You know what works and know what doesn't work. And it's different for all of us. There's some correlations between us as individuals, but for the most part, it is a subjective experience.
That's why we know meditation works, not because we're able to sit still and do it. And that's why I've been trying to find a way to push against this notion, I can't meditate. A non-emotional, I guess, counter. I've been still looking for one to say, when people say, I can't meditate, that's why I jog or run, or I can't meditate, that's why I do X, Y, or Z.
I've heard that so many times.
So, but what you said there, science, I think what life is, in a sense, is a lesson, a classroom, an opportunity to learn. And I'm not sure what people refer to their guru as or what a guru should be. But for me personally, life, just existence, the universe, this world, not necessarily civilization or society, but the world, existence, reality, the planet. That's been my guru.
Mm-hmm.
You bump your head here, it teaches you. You make a mistake here, you start to learn. As long as you're willing to listen and be humble and admit that maybe you aren't right in absolute in knowledge and know it, you're not perfect, then you can learn a lot from just error, pain, and mistakes. And then you can, once you start to see that there's lessons to be learned, like you said, you can become scientific about it. Let me test this. Let me try this out. Let me investigate that, get the results, the benefit, and see and confirm or deny, like you said, like I said earlier, independently. So scientific investigation, personal exploration, and lifelong education, self-education.
Yeah. Amen. The science of the self.
Science of the self.
Yeah, man. It's good stuff. It's true. It's real stuff. Real yogis, sages, like the real ones, not just people that go to yoga class on Sunday, like a true sage, they refer to yoga as a science, like the whole path of yoga.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel that 100%. Let me ask you this one, man. You think life is it's a school, right? We've all heard that. It's Earth School. What is it trying to teach us ultimately? Like, is it trying to, in one way or the other, make us all our best selves? Where is this going? I know that's obviously a generalization, but if we can answer generally, like, how would you say?
I think it's trying to make us best. No, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to understand. I think if I would explain it in these terms, I think we are in paradise. We have made an error some time historically.
Yeah.
Can we now find our way back to it individually? And that is an incredible effort. The greatest effort is, can we do it collectively?
Yeah.
And doing so, the reward is living as sentient conscious beings in Garden of Eden. So I think it's an opportunity to come to natural birthright as, the beings we are, of a blissful existence where there's no real threats or competition on this planet from other species. You know what I mean? This should be a paradise. We run the roost, you know what I mean? But we have allowed ourselves to get trapped in our minds, get trapped in a world of thought, labeling, categorization, distinction. And that has fragmented everything, separated everything. And we can no longer see what is. We can't even see the abundance that we possess because of these narratives and these stories and categorizations and labels that have persisted throughout time. We're just basically, I guess, humanity has been running a story, right? We have survived this far based on story. Long before we could write things down, compute, do mathematics, we had stories to carry our reality forward. And I just think that's seeded into our biology and our makeup mentally, cognitively. I think that the purpose of this, if I don't believe absolutely there is a purpose. I think everything's perfected and correct in a broad, absolute sense. But locally, relatively, I think what this represents for us is a challenge and a test. Can we see our way individually through, and greater challenge, I should say, collectively? And if we can't, the test that we may fail, that we may be on the cusp of, is, do we, Fermi paradox, if you will, do we build a world where we can completely unburden ourselves? Or do we build a world where we are limitlessly capable? I think that is the challenge, the test. Wake up before you end it.
Yeah.
So that's what I think this, not nuclear annihilation, but literally trapping ourselves in a comfortable, secure, matrix-like environment based on biological imperatives and motives instead of cognitive decisions from a more, what's a better word? Enlightened perspective. I don't have a better word for it. Yeah. So do I think there's a broad, grand scheme to push humanity in specifically towards something? No, I think that this is an environment where, whether we're being assisted consciously, willfully or not, I don't know. It seems like we are sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, like I'm being helped. I mean, that's been my life experience. Like, am I being helped? Maybe I shouldn't keep denying these lessons and keep resisting and avoiding believing that I'm somehow more than I am capable of being, knowing more than I'm actually knowing, and on my own path toward personal identification, success, glory, maybe I should listen to what's right because it seems to be yielding a better experience. So I think it's natural for us to get caught up in our mind, trying to actualize individual purposes once we're caught up in the mental program. But I think the goal is to see beyond that and to see that there's a broader intelligence, or at least even if it's not broader intelligence, a broader scope of information available to us to actualize and use to bring ourselves to a better condition than we could solely with cognitive abilities.
Mm-hmm. Wow. All said.
Using that, we can bring ourselves to a state of bliss individually and collectively. But obviously, with this individual tool, it's going to not work because we're going to have so many different competing agendas that are mutually exclusive that we can't necessarily do it unless we are parented externally. Mm-hmm. There is no parent available, so we'd have to build that one. That would be technology, algorithms, computation, machines. And I think that is the test that we are on the verge of entering or failing. I'm not sure where we are in that path. I'm not, psychic or whatever, but it's likely the filter that weeds out quite a bit of life in this universe, keeps unenlightened species from, infecting the galaxy in the universe.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's good stuff, man. Yeah. So this whole thing is an opportunity for us to wise up, essentially, to get out of our delusional glamours that we seem to have built up over generations, this sort of selfish orientation, very selfish, like I, me, mine attitude. Wake up out of that and realize that we're all in this together. And if we don't, better luck next time, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
What did the Hindus say? Is it Kali Yoga? Kali
Yoga, yeah, supposedly.
Yeah, this maybe it's not universal necessarily every time. Maybe it is individually real for each species. The end of this species, and maybe a new one, a new realm of psychic consciousness is birthed on another planet that has another opportunity. I'm not sure, but I mean, it makes sense why we're in this condition. This is why I'm not too hard on us. I think it's sad because we have so much available. I look at humanity as a great high school or college athlete that kind of went left. You know what I mean? So much potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So much opportunity, so much potential. We had so much hope for you. But what are you doing, man? Why are you out here street racing? You have a game tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so true. Oh, man.
So, I mean, I think if I can just interject real quick, I think I try to be, like I said, I see us as children, teenagers, adolescents, in a sense, as a collective. And I try to be a little softer on us because it makes sense when you think about it. Our minds were evolved in an environment where those realities were true to a degree. Scarcity, constant threats, labor intensive activities everywhere, just getting enough food is going to drain you, So it makes sense why we're wired and programmed to see this. Mm-hmm. And you can see throughout history a couple of opportunities where we could have come to this, and the energy is just slightly too strong against it. And you need enough time to sit down. You've obviously taken time. Clearly, you're doing this. Each time you do this with a person, you're taking time to think. And I'm sure you're thinking immensely in between these periods, reading and absorbing, meditating. But it does take that time that really you need abundance to have, or at least opportunity to sit still to have, to see things more clearly. Perspective, like I said, we need to get on our mind. So I was hoping, unfortunately, that this global issue we had in 2020, this global health crisis we had, this pandemic would have given us an opportunity to get a reprieve. But we entered into a state where there was so much fear and worry and anxiety that I'm afraid that we unfortunately may have squandered that opportunity.
Yeah.
Globally.
Yeah, I know, right? Who knows where we will go, but it does feel like a transitory period between that era of scarcity and now we are in this weird era of abundance, yet we're still working with the tendencies of scarcity. It's very peculiar in that sense.
I think I understand why that is. It's money, quantification, mathematics. And when you think about the fact that money, just in particular current currency, now that we have the ability to conceptualize a finite quantity of a thing that we possess, and all of us have a finite quantity of money, and there's a finite amount available on this planet. But conceptually, mentally, cognitively, our lifespans, our needs, our fears, our threats, our desires aren't capped, aren't limited. So you have this relative juxtaposition, this relationship between our cognitive desires, needs, and concept of self, and a cognition and an awareness of a limited availability of resources in terms of capital. I think that is one of the main issues that keeps us mentally inclined towards scarcity. Even if we have 10 cars and 3 houses, we still know that we have only $20 million or $30 million, whatever this person has. But we haven't pegged our lifespan as being finite. So many people can't even enjoy what would be multiple lifetimes worth of wealth, because cognitively they can't see an end to themselves, but they can see an end to their money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There may be one culprit.
There may be one culprit.
That may be one culprit for this continuation of the scarcity mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? I've been thinking about why is it that we haven't adopted what is not for everyone on this planet, but objectively for this planet available for everyone. Yeah. Now, everyone doesn't have as much as they need, but there's enough for everyone in a sense, basics.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to figure out why is it that we haven't come to this, at least, especially the people that are the most comfortable and secure financially and materially.
Yeah.
And my only thought is their lifespan is not finite. We can't, unless you are really, really with it, it's hard to conceive of an actual end to yourself. Somehow I'll be saved. I'll be 100 and somehow some new technology will be invented and I'll be 150 and then something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or I'll freeze
but
my
the
body.
Money,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the money is calculable. It is finite and definitive. And that limitation juxtaposed with an indefinite keeps scarcity going. The indefinite limited resources. That's just one possibility.
Yeah, they like butt heads. That's good. I've never thought of it that way. I also do think it's because this era of abundance has only been what? I don't know, the last maybe
50, 70 years.
50, 50, 70.
Look at you. You're very optimistic, man.
I don't know. We'll say 50 to 100 around that, whatever. The era of scarcity, thousands, probably, right? So it's just in our loins. It's in our DNA. And if you weren't scarce, if you didn't have this scarce mindset, you probably didn't survive. So the ones that survived did not
get passed on. Yes.
Yeah. So all of our ancestors, all of our DNA are the ones that had to be scarce for them to just live on. If you were living in some delusion of abundance when you were in scarcity, you didn't make it. So now what we're doing is we're battling, like you said, juxtapositions such as the ones that you brought up, but also we're battling our DNA. And that's tough, man, because it's so brand new. Like we're in this brand new era and it's just happening within, like we said, the last 50 to 100 years. But I think that's the opportunity. That's the battle, if you want to call it that. That's the hero's journey that we're in, is we're fighting this sort of demon within, if you want to call it, the devil. Not even, I mean, that's kind of maybe a little,
I'll use it.
Yeah. Okay. We're battling the beast within, man.
Exactly. I mean, I use it, but I don't put religious connotation. I use the word God and devil to symbolize opposing forces at a broad scale.
And that's what it is. That's what it is, man. Yeah. We're battling the devil of our animalistic instincts of scarcity that's driving this sense of lowercase s self with this uppercase s self of God, which is really like that's the opportunity is for us to be able to see that, the collective self. And that's where all of us need to wake up to. If we don't, then we might have the darkness win, unfortunately. But I don't know, man. I think something's going on right now at this point. I think it just seems like if you turn on Fox News, TikTok, and the popular narrative is that we're still stuck in the darkness. We're never going to get out of the darkness. I don't think so. I think behind the scenes, the battle is being waged, that's for sure. But the battle is being won by the light and by our true sense of self. The sense of the collective. I really think that's what's happening. It may seem messy. It may not seem like we're going to make it, but I think it's because it's so brand new, and it's really nothing new. This is our our nature. You know, this is
What do
really
you
where
mean?
we come
What's
from.
so brand new? What do you mean? What exactly do you mean so brand new?
Sorry. Yeah, the idea of us becoming the human that we're supposed to be, the state of abundance, you know, working with
Okay.
that and living in that,
Okay.
living as the collective. It's not actually brand new. I think that's how we were supposed to live, like innately, something that we lost, you know, it's like our birthright. But it's new in the sense because we've been conditioned into the darkness over thousands and thousands of years, conditioned into the scarcity. You know, that's just how we evolved. And yeah, this whole new state of self is brand new at this point, and that's why it may seem like, oh, are we gonna make it or not? This is a really, really interesting time to be alive, man. To witness all of this and to
It
be a part of
absolutely
it.
is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
I think your general trend is right. I think we would make it. I think we would make it. I think we're trending in the right direction. The only concern I have is that our intelligence may fast track that devil side faster than, you know what I mean? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is this desire, and maybe even as a necessary step to get to the thing that you're talking about,
Yeah.
we must cultivate technological, scientific, mechanistic abilities to provide abundance to all. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's some system that can actually get everyone with the resource, the resource to everyone that needs them, and distribute it more equitably, or whatever, or at least clean out and carve out some of the exploitation and wrongdoing that kind of sucks up some of the excess that could be distributed. I think the issue that I am concerned with currently is that that's inclination to unburden ourselves, to find more security, greater ease and more stability, more control, that may yield fruit sooner than we are able to realize and accept and acknowledge the abundance.
Yeah.
And if
Mm-hmm.
that does, I mean, I'm not saying it will, but if that does, then we will use those abilities to satisfy that scarcity mindset. And that, I think, will trap us in something we don't want to be trapped in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and the only issue with that is once we shift our burden of effort, and really the last burden would be of thought. If artificial intelligence or something like this is able to supplant human thought and do it better, and we shift everything to it, then we no longer really have a role for self-advocation, even if we come to this realization after the fact.
Mm.
So that is a scary and dangerous thing, because even if we wake up, we will be encaged.
Yeah. Sounds like the
It
Matrix.
is. That is exactly. I avoid using that word simply because of the connotations. You think we're going to be an artist? No, we will build it. We will build it, and we will put ourselves in there thinking it's for the best. And then we will wake up and realize we don't have a voice inside of this thing. We're comfortable. Food comes every day. We have plenty of entertainment. However, we're not able to manipulate or influence the systems that support us.
Mm.
That is a mistake. And I think the only reason that we would do that is because if you start granting individuals this genius level capability without them possessing it internally, without having to earn this, and this is really what's one of the things that's preserved this world, is gaining the information, the capital, and the know-how have been challenging. So the order of the world is persisted throughout this time because it's been very hard to upset it. It's kind of stable in that way. But if you grant individuals the ability to create new databases, attack websites, manipulate, did we lose something?
Lost your camera.
Okay.
A few moments later.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. We're back in.
So we defeated it. So that's a sign that we're going to win, man.
Exactly.
Humans over AI.
Right there. Oh, man.
Right.
So, yeah, we
Where
were
were
talking about, okay, you're talking about how if we get to a point of technology providing this abundance without earning it per se, it's going to pretty much supplement our...
Not abundance, ability.
Okay.
With the ability to have, I mean, I've been using it, robustly, multiple versions, models, and I just see that I'm reading Wikipedia less. I'm literally unburdening myself from effort cognitively.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying is, if each individual is granted genius level ability without having to possess that innately, internally, work to earn that, And we are also operating in this scarcity-based, fear-based, control-seeking mentality where I would like to have enough money to keep people away from me or in the position or whatever the heck it is. Then we will use this to, in a sense, I mean, you can't have a billion people with Einstein level minds operating off of fear-based, control-based scarcity mentality. They're going to assault the world for their own personal and individual gain. Because it'll be beneficial to them. Even if they're not breaking the law, they will assault it. They will undermine the economic, financial system, political systems. So you have to almost somewhat protect the world systems if we build them from people, you know what I mean? To a degree, as we do now, right? We can't just manipulate the stock market. There are controls, but at a certain point, those controls will be able to be circumvented by a human with a supercomputer in a sense in their pocket, you know, an artificially intelligent supercomputer. So what I see and what I'm afraid of, not afraid of, what I think we need to be worried about and prevent from happening by, like, the work you're doing is essential to this, by at least seeding the consciousness with a goal, with a single goal of this. The point of all of this advancement and development is to liberate humanity from constraints. That would be the main point of it for me, not to simply unburden ourselves. If we can keep that in mind, even if we do build this world, and it will be more aligned with our long-term objective, and we may still have a door out. You know what I mean? That's the priority, the prioritization, something that I'm starting tonight, tomorrow. I'm relaunching my website, beginning this thing. This is my ethicist portion of my work, is to just basically alert people that the objective and the priority of a world is to improve the condition of its inhabitants. We have somehow flipped the script to believe that we live to serve the world. You know what I mean? The world is of more vital importance than us. No, the world is meant to improve our condition. And if it's not doing that, then it is a subpar world. Advancing technology and capabilities should only be geared toward improving our subjective state. To a degree, some of that is comfort, entertainment, pleasure, control, safety, and security. But if we only seek that, then we imprison ourselves. But if we keep the objective aligned, along with increasing security, comfort, pleasure, food safety, all of these things, if we keep it aligned with an objective of individual empowerment and liberation from the need of these constraints, from the need of governmental, societal, legal control, hundreds of years probably in the future, but that long-term objective, then we can still build a door out because it will be aligned with a human objective, which is to be free. I mean, I think that's the side that you're working on. Our bodies are all working on the side: security, pleasure, comfort, control. But the higher S is working on being impervious, being beyond need, desire. You know what I mean? Like, so I think the goal that we have to align ourselves with is Godhood, not becoming more powerful ants.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
At some point, being able, in the far-flung future, this is radical, I know. Some point in the far-flung future, each individual human, whether you consider them human or not, being able to exist independent of another human completely, in bliss and in security and comfort. Then people can come together in a completely liberated and free society and organization because they're not dependent upon it. Right now, we need our world. We need the world. We need the systems. We need people to, I don't know how to farm. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not ashamed of that. And I don't really want to be in a world where realities exist like they do and we don't have some measure of security. We have practical realities we must acknowledge. But eventually, I would hope that our descendants would eventually be able to use these growing abilities, burgeoning capabilities to liberate themselves from this constraint. I think what I've been able to see is through my meditation I'm 44 years old. So however long, 35 years. Yeah, 35 years of meditation. After, I was able to basically extricate myself from my mind when I was 34 years old in 2014. After 25 years of meditation, I've been able to see, it's been 10 years now. I've been able to see and conceive of existence independent of all. And I think only with this perspective is it possible to conceive of existing blissfully without a world. That's just something I don't think most people conceive of. We cannot do that. I'm being practically and honestly real. We cannot do that currently. We will not do that in your lifetime, my lifetime, or our grandchildren's lifetime, or their children's lifetime. This will be 100 to 300 plus year endeavor. But the goal should always be aiming toward that, not necessarily extending this hierarchical exploitation across the galaxy, which is what most science fiction and future views look like. Just this everywhere with flying cars, you know what I mean? And butler robots. No, I think we need to be more ambitious in a sense.
Wow. I've never heard anybody say that. So you're saying we should be ambitious in the sense that we work toward being able to have some kind of independent experience that is not of this world, like this, toward godhood, so we get to.
We'll never reach it. That's perfection. That's the goal, though. That's the target. What I'm saying, let me just clarify real quick, just to make sure that I'm being heard accurately. What I'm saying is that we use our growing capabilities, technology, know-how, understanding to obviously improve our comfort, security, quality of life in the near term. We're not going to sacrifice our lives for future people we will never meet. We won't suffer for that. That's not sensible. But with these growing capabilities, they should always be aligned with eliminating the need for a world. A world is a structure, an incubator, a parent, a womb, until we're able to do without one. You should never exist in a limiting, constraining structure beyond need. That just seems to be sensible. Once we have the capabilities to exist independent of this planet or a star individually, with obviously technologically capable, whatever, probably modifications to our genetics, biology, things like this, then whatever arrangement we engage in is a completely liberated and free one. Yeah. You know what I mean? We are not here because we must be, and there's no option. Therefore, you don't need police and governments and rules and law, because everyone is there by choice with full autonomy to leave or not at any point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
So that is I don't hear people talking about this. I'm not claiming to be, I claim more to be, what do you call it? I hate using spiritual terms because I don't fit neatly within these things, and I don't want to abuse another person's culture. You know what I mean? I really don't. But the best term that I found is bodhisattva. Mm-hmm. Does it make any sense? I don't claim to be staring into the abyss constantly. As an enlightened person, there's a distinction that I would make between people that have transcended their mind. There's the bodhisattva, and then there's a person that is just one and the same. Atman is merged into Brahma. You know what I mean? Like, they're staring right into the eyes of Brahma. Atman, so there's really no distinction. What I would call the bodhisattva is Atman leaning on Brahma. My back, I'm being held, I'm leaning, supported, but I'm facing the world. So I'm able to see the suffering, the pain, the injury and everything, but I'm able to also use a perspective that isn't encapsulated in the mind in the way that it used to be, to see things a little bit more clearly, detached.
Yeah.
And from this perspective, we can get an alternative perspective that may not, like you said, you've never heard, and I haven't heard either. So there you go.
Well said. Well said, though. Yeah. So essentially, this Godhood you're talking about is building a reality that is. Oh, lost you again.
Not this time, Matrix.
A few moments later.
But we're back. Take 3. So getting back on that track. Essentially, the sense of godhood that you're talking about is us. Oh, it doesn't want me to get this point.
No, but go ahead while I rectify this. I apologize.
Yeah, I'll just keep talking. It's okay. So essentially, this sense of godhood that you're talking about is an imperative toward humanity not being so dependent on this world, which essentially seems like a life and experience that isn't dependent or doesn't work upon the foundation of entropy, because that's what we're working seemingly against here, is a sense of like, this whole thing is against me. It's me against the world, and dog eat dog. And to me, it seems like if there is a goal for this whole thing, as you described, is that we're working toward a sense of a flow state where it's no entropy. It's more like we're going with the motions of this world. We're going with the Tao and everything that's been handed to us and given to us in this Garden of Eden. And we may use technology and AI to facilitate that. What we just can't get lost in the sense, in the fruits of what AI and technology grants us to almost make us complacent and make us, like you said, ants. I like that. Like we're a little more than ants.
Powerful ants instead of liberated gods or whatever.
Liberated gods, man. Yeah, I feel that, like that God sense within, that Godhood within. I think that is it, man. We're all working toward that. I think that if there is a goal to the path, we're working toward liberation, right? We've all heard that buzzword before, but what does that really mean? You know, what is freedom? What really is freedom? Freedom is the ability to do whatever you want, right? In a classical sense, I can do whatever I want. So in your description of what we're doing this for, it's so that we're not at the whim of our environment anymore. We're not at the whim of our desires and aversions. We are working to truly build a sort of dreamlike, heaven-like state so that one can do whatever they want and enjoy this human experience. It may not even be a human experience, right? It may be, who knows what.
It's hard to call it that.
Yeah.
So different that you might not even want to call it that. You know, human 2.0 or human 1.5, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, man. I feel like people who are very in tune with themselves, and you seem to be obviously very in tune with yourself, have a sort of omnipresence. What is the word when you can predict the future? Sort of prophetic.
Omniscience.
Yeah, an omniscience of oneself and humanity. And there is a sense of like, we are building towards something. We are building toward, if this is Kali Yuga, we're building toward, as they say, Sat Yuga. You know, it's a better age, it's like a more freer age, something where there are less constraints.
Explain that to me. I'm not familiar with. I've heard of Kali. Say that again. I don't know about that.
Yeah, so there's 4 different ages. We're in Kali. Sat is supposedly the next one. I don't know. It's up in the air. People, I don't know. I don't like to follow that model too much, but I do think we are following the path of building a better world. And Sat is supposedly like, this is a way better world. Sat means truth in Sanskrit. So I don't know what Kali means. I know Kali is a goddess, but I don't exactly know what Kali represents.
We're on our way to the better world. Is that what the general sentiment
That's
is?
What they say.
Okay.
That's what they say. But it may be like hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years. It may be now. There's so many different interpretations of the yugas. Either way, though, we're moving towards something. I don't know how long it's going to take, but they say we're moving toward the era of truth, where we live in our truth. We live in Sat. I do believe that. I feel that. And I'm not just saying that because I read that from some guy that has a Sanskrit name in a book. I feel that within my intuition that we're building towards something that is a timeline or a world that doesn't even look like this world. It's something that will be irrecognizable. We're building almost like past these bodies in a way. We're using these bodies in this world of Earth as, I think you said it, as trajectory, as a sort of like foundation for us to build out of it. Like this is a sort of like, this is almost a starting point in order for us to become these beings of light, where we're in this, like, I was going to say another realm, but it's really not another realm. It's this realm. It's this, what we're all in right now. But it's seemingly like the experience is seemingly going to be different. It's going to be a lot more free. Like I said, less entropy. Quite hard to explain with words, with mouth noises, simple mouth noises that we're using.
Limited, aren't they?
Very, very limited. But do you feel it within? I know a lot of other people do, but obviously you seem to. Do you feel like inevitably we're going to build a better world? We might destroy ourselves. I mean, that might happen. Who knows? But I think eventually,
the only thing to do is to build a better world.
Yeah, what else are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's people that should be focused on making this time comfortable, more entertainment, learning how to cook a better souffle or whatever
Yeah.
they want to do. And there's other people that want to work on accelerating our capabilities and abilities. I also think there needs to be room for people like you, for like probably like myself, who are working on aspects that, and again, who are working on aspects that are, how do you say, less tangible. But still, these things have existed throughout time. Am I wrong? These things have existed throughout time.
Yeah.
These things have been around for thousands of years. So I'm a firm and strong believer in not stripping things down just because we don't see them as essential anymore. And I think what you and I do yield less tangible physical results in an immediate period of time, in a short period of time.
Yeah.
But we know that over time, there's almost probably nothing better than investigating this aspect of ourselves and diving into the mind and getting ourselves right. So I think in addition, between making the world better, just more comfortable, more pleasurable, more enjoyable on a day-to-day basis, in addition to accelerating our abilities, scientific, technological, medical abilities, agricultural, whatever, there still needs to be a small sliver of space cut out for the outcast, the outsider, the introspectionist, the philosopher, to, in a sense, keep the whole game with a little perspective and context. Because it's so easy to get, that's what we've done. We've gotten so caught up. It's politics. It's the economy. It's this. It's so important. We can't worry about meditation until we solve this. Well, we won't ever solve that until we worry about meditation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we lost the context, the bigger context, the bigger picture. Yeah, man. That's for sure.
So short-sighted, aren't we?
And you know,
I do believe we're generally trending in a direction where not necessarily where it's inevitable that it will work out, but where we have an opportunity and a choice. You know?
Yeah, the opportunity is inevitable.
The opportunity is inevitable. The choice and the decision will be upon us. And what you're doing, I am not even joking. I mean, when I say that it's essential that this happens to spread these perspectives and ideas and potential inevitabilities, so that at the minimum, the information space made of the collective of human minds, the sum total of all of our minds, this information space that normally supports a social reality and an economic reality and a political and a cultural and whatever reality, that it is seeded with this human objective of liberation. It's not necessarily physical. I'm sorry about this, but I will rectify this if we ever speak again. Okay. That it's seeded with this objective of liberation. I think we've historically only discussed it as mental and spiritual liberation. I guess we're only audio. So we historically discussed this as only mental and spiritual liberation, but we're getting to the point where it's actually going to be possible to liberate ourselves in a physical way. Now, we'll always still have physical, tangible bodies as long as we're human beings, but from the constraints of the world and other people. Really, we want to get to a point to where I look at it like this. If you talk about godhood, a god does not need to protect itself from another individual or worry about acquiring assets and resources. You know, everything is from a completely liberated, free decision and position. And I think that is a place where the only suffering a person would endure, there would maybe be no suffering because there would be nothing a person would endure that they didn't deliberately sign up for or choose. Currently, we must suffer the constraints of a world because we must organize ourselves. And whatever framework and constraints you put on a collective is going to be wrong, likely to a degree, for one or more of those parties. You can't have a world without causing suffering, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You and I, no matter how smart we think we are, we cannot construct a civilization that will not unfairly and unduly constrain at least one individual.
Yeah. Damn.
So what's going on, man? I'm sorry.
This is powerful stuff, man. Yeah, I just got a lot, like, the vision of, like, how did we get here? Like, how do we get in this calamity? I don't know, because we can see it. We can
necessity
feel it.
To a degree. To a degree, necessity, right? We can't have you taking all of our chickens and cows. So we've got to get some guys with sticks to stop that from happening, you know? And it just keeps gaining. And we want to know how many chickens we have. So we start counting, and we have more than you. So we're more powerful. And it's just momentum. But the momentum is pushing us, compelling us, driving us toward you experienced it in your own personal life. You had momentum, right? And then you realize at some point there was a decision that needed to be made. This isn't going the way I want. This isn't as good as I like for it to be. I'm going to do something about that. And maybe this is all this is on a global scale, on a historical scale. We've lived, we got by, we could cope, we were fine until we weren't,
Yes. Yeah, that's samsara right there, man. That's pretty much Eastern philosophy right there. Yeah. It's this endless cycle of suffering until we realize that there is another way. We start to turn the wheel of Dharma, as they say, and we turn our lives around, adopt completely different habits and hobbies and just different lifestyles altogether. And we do it only when we realize that the way that we lived before was futile and ultimately did build suffering for ourselves. And
so
that's where we're at right now. It's changing that momentum in a way. Yeah, man.
I interrupted you. You were going to say something a second ago. Do you remember what that was? I completely
I lost it.
Stepped on. It was something about the momentum and the trajectory, and
I lost it. I'm just like,
okay.
I'm zoned in. Apologize.
Are you? That's good. That's good, right?
I just have like these visualizations going on of like like where we're going, man. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. This is like taking me into a sort of a trip of how do I put this? Like I can just see where we're going, and we're moving past these bodies. And it almost seems like in the beginning of it, like, and I can even see it now, that some of us are going to make it and some of us aren't. There's a lot of people that are going to be stuck in the matrix, stuck in the cycle of samsara, and then a lot of people are going to get the message and use it for their best benefit to ultimately be free. And it's not just going to happen like this. Everybody's cool and we're on heaven on earth, kumbaya. It's going to be like this weird gradual process where a select few are going to be able to get the message, and honestly the majority aren't. They're just stuck in this little cycle, or this big cycle. Man,
it's a good chance of that happening, of it being fragmented or splintered, not a complete human liberation. There'll be sort of a self-selection. Is that what you think will happen? You're pretty confident of that?
It seems like it. Yeah. It seems like it. I think it's happening right now. And I remember what I was going to say, actually. It's sort of related, that it's this changing up of ourselves and new world, new habits, new self altogether. The beautiful part of it is actually that the changing of it does take different forms in how we go about doing it. Like you said, some people make good souffles, some people are good parents, some people do podcasts or write books or drive race cars, whatever. We all have our own dharma, as they say. But yet also the beautiful part of it is that it shines through in even the smallest moments of our life. Like we don't have to become the president of the United States. We build a better world really in the smallest moments. Like when you're holding the door for somebody, or you truly listening to somebody, or you're actually just being a natural human. You're being a little bit less about yourself, your individual self, and a little bit more about others and whatever's going on in whatever circumstance, whatever way that the life presents itself to you. You're a little bit less about yourself, the lowercase I, and more about the uppercase I of everyone else. And I think that's really where it shines through. That's how all of us, in a general sense, build a better world. It's in all of the little interactions of our life. We facilitate that in all of the little moments of our life. Definitely that we all have our own roles, like you said, but I think we all share and correlate on the same role of, we're all here, we're all in it together, we're all in the struggle together. We all got stuff we got to do. So in the midst of the stuff we got to do together, how can we make it a little bit of an easier ride for others? What, and it's hard to generalize because we all have different roles, different ways that life and life's. So
I think that's it. Doing what's right for you is the best way for you to make it good. It's almost sounds wrong because it's so selfish, but doing what's right for you is the best thing for anybody to do. It's just you have to work a little bit to figure out what that is and to be right about that. That's the hard part. That's the only way. But it's so easy to, I don't know, how do you say this? It's so easy to modify that objective because the mind is presenting us with other agendas and say, okay, no, I know I should just, for example, be a painter, but I can paint after I get done with law school and become an attorney because that'll provide more financial security and all of this. And then your gift to the world has been undermined by the mental desire for status and esteem and security, so that is the struggle. How do we avoid? I mean, we have practical realities. We have to eat. We have to earn. We have to live. We have to support ourselves. Even if we're just begging, we still have to do something. But how do we keep ourselves from getting trapped in the mind's objective, like you said, the lowercase s for us, and pursue our actual objective, especially when there's a little bit of difficulty, a little bit of resistance for doing that. But if we can do that and we do what's best for us and we find a way to exist and live doing that, then like you said, there's nothing better we can do. I mean, I think the best way to hurt the world is to do something, no matter how good you are at it, to do something that's not right for you. Just because you're capable doesn't mean you should be president, right? Just because you can make it to be a president, you'd hurt the world if you should actually be working on new surfboards or something like this.
Yep. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's very well said. Yeah, and it works like that. The best thing that you can do for yourself is the best thing that you can do for the self. And the worst thing that you can do for yourself is the worst thing that you can do for the self. Yeah,
exactly.
Man. Either way, it is selfish. Like, we all have to do our own thing here. But then it's like, well, in the thing that you're doing, does it also help the greater? Does it help the greater sense of self in that? Or is it just some kind of pursuit that gets you money, gets you status, gets you just make people think you're cool? It's weird. It's all about our values and where they derive from. But I do feel as though once you do get on the path of meditation, those value sets, they just naturally come into our life and we're able to discern what is right and what is wrong,
You know what I think's happening when you start meditating? You're expanding your awareness. You're connecting to a broader reality, and you're informed of more possibilities, more considerations, and more possibilities for getting wrong, or you see things more clearly. And like I said earlier, this is more. I think of things in a slightly detached way, a little less emotional. I think of this more of an information space. There's information available to put us on the blissful right path of life, the path that would be best for us to live. Can we see that? Can we hear that? And can we align ourselves with that path? So what I believe is, I'm not sure if I missed my original point, but what I believe the best thing to do, I think being selfish is, if you're selfish in the right way, that's the most spiritual and ethical thing you can do.
Yeah. Yep.
If you're selfish in the right way. No, I know this is right for me. And I know not only is this right for me, if I do this, it'll be better for everyone, and maybe that even everyone is not a consideration, as long as it's actually right for you. It feels right. It's not making you feel icky and weird. And you've thought about it. I mean, because really your intuition will tell you this isn't right for you. Yes, you're making a lot of money. You're famous, but you're not happy. This isn't good. So if you align your mind and your spirit, soul, consciousness, whatever the heck, with whatever you're doing, that's a pretty good indicator, a compass, a signal that you are close to being on that line. And that's the way I look at it. There's a perfect life. And that perfect life will yield the best, most ideal experience, even if there's difficulty involved. Will we be able to find that perfect line and perfect life? Unlikely. But will we know if we're not there, if it's so good that we can't imagine it being better? I think that's the goal, is to get to that line, correcting our errors, correcting our ignorances, and doing what's challenging many times, but rewarding in the long run. There's nothing that you can do better than living the most right life for you. No, you didn't make $100 billion, but what could that have improved? A blissful, ecstatically lived life. You know what I mean? So just aligning it, being selfish in the right way, because when you think about it, we don't know what's right for another person. Yeah. That's what I was saying about the limitation of these constraints. We're generally human. I know that at some point in the next several hours, you'll need to drink something. You'll need some fluids. You know what I mean?
Right now. Good reminder.
So we have a general understanding and we can accommodate that for that. But the individual has so many varieties. How much pepper is too much for you? Do you like it's this sweet or whatever? There's so many individual considerations and distinctions. So we can't truly be right for another person. So I think just focusing, I will put it to you like this, focusing on what's right for us, but not ignoring our impact to others, because that is a consideration as well. You can get so caught up in yourself that you are actually deluding yourself that this is right. The mind saying, do it, do it, do it. We have to be mindful of a shared environment, and that the only time we do what's right for us, even if it will incur an impact to another that they will consider negative, the only time we do that is when we know we must or will be wrong for ourselves. Listen, man, I've got to dig this tree up. It's poisoning my family. Dude, don't dig it up. No. Okay. But I got to. Okay. And it's like, dude, please. Well, I'm going to dig it up because my family's getting sick or something. I know this is a crazy example, but
I got you though.
But that's the only time we go that far. If it mustn't be dug up and it's not harming anybody. And the dude said, man, I really enjoy it. I like looking at it every day. I'm like, all right, man, maybe I don't have to get rid of it,
Yeah, man.
Just selfishness in the correct manner.
Exactly. Yeah. Save yourself to save the world. Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Selfishness in the correct manner. Everything is selfish in a way. It's just how we direct that selfishness, that selfish energy. Yeah.
Are we allowing the mind? Are we fulfilling the mind's desires for selfishness and these primitive, primal based concerns that likely will never be satisfied? The mind was not evolved in an environment where it could be satisfied. There was it did not evolve an environment where there could be enough.
Yeah.
So there was never a governor or a limiter on that, True. Get as many calories as you can. We obviously see that we live in a world where that is harming us if we don't consciously check that, So there's a lot of things that the mind will pursue, which is probably the large part of the reason the world is in the state it's in. There's a lot of things the mind will pursue that aren't good, but when not consciously checked, will destroy everything. There's people that will not be satisfied until they have all the money. And once they have all of the money, they still will want more money. You know what I mean? Because there's no natural limiter and governor on that. So are we satisfying the mind's desires or our desires? And what I call our desires are the desires of the subjective experiencer.
Yeah.
The things that make you feel more right, not just make you think you're better.
Yeah.
The experience of you is always the determining factor as to whether something is correct. That's kind of like the unconscious, non-mental thermometer or whatever you want to call it, or compass for right action. Did this lead to a better state for me? Not just pleasure, but actually, do I feel better about where I am as an entity, as a being?
Yeah.
If we focus more on that, then we can somewhat undermine and undercut some of these mental objectives. No, another $1 billion would be great, but I don't really need that. And that'll take up time that I could be spending on this and that. And that's all we can do is focusing on the subjective experience, improving the quality of that. And if we do that a little bit more, then we will see that following mental desires, another piece of cake, more fried food or whatever the heck, or more alcohol or whatever we're doing, just drinking ourselves, or even just purchasing things unnecessarily, that isn't actually improving it. It's not.
It's not. Yep. Yeah. Well said, Lex. Yeah. And it really just comes down to know thyself. If you know thyself, then thyself will lead the way, and it will not lead you astray. That's for sure. The more you go within, the more that internal compass will direct one toward right action, right view, right action, all the rights of the Eightfold Path. It will just lead the way in that. And
Exactly.
yeah, man, it's quite apparent. It's quite apparent. That's the thing, is once we go in, it's I just know that is the way. I know that going within, focusing on this inward discernment, this intuition, as they say, is the way toward just a better life, happiness. We're all, that's not what we all want, to enjoy this experience somewhat while we're here. There's no other way, man. I tried it. I'm pretty sure you've tried it. Everyone has tried it. We've tried to get the money, the girl, the car, the house, the whatever it is, maybe this, maybe that. I'm going to try this. No, that's not it. Truly a satisfying experience, past pleasure, past our desires, our selfish desires, truly finding some semblance of happiness and peace of life means knowing who you are, going within, and it just leads the way in that regard. Yeah, I mean, I think we've said that enough, but I think that's really all it comes down to, is just go within, man. Go within oneself.
I think one of the best ways to come to that is to get what you want. It's
Yeah.
what happened to me. As I had the house, I got married, and I had the car I wanted, and I was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Like, and I reached a state to where, like, I started saying, like, this is it, just this over and over, a new house, a new car, you know what I mean? So I kind of had an existential crisis, I guess you would say, when I was in my mid 30s or whatever. And I was 34, maybe 33 when it started happening. And I just could not see. I was atheistic completely. Wasn't even agnostic. I was just like, this is the point. This is why we were born, to just repeat. And I had an opportunity. I'd been meditating for decades, for 2+ decades. And I had plenty of opportunities when I reflect back to kind of know a little bit more. But like, that was uncomfortable, disconcerting. Felt like I was going to die. So I'm just going to be honest with you. So I avoided all that. I was like, and that would pull me out of my meditation. Like, oh, what the heck is that? No, that's not the euphoric feeling that I wanted. That's something else. So things got so bad for me at a certain point when I was living in Indiana. I was working a job in accounting and finance. And I just said, okay, I was meditating one night. I think I watched Game of Thrones with my wife, and she went to sleep, and I was like, let's go meditate. She wasn't into it. I just started trying to get her to meditate a little bit before that. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go in this room and meditate. And I sat down in the fashion that I only had one technique at that point. Maybe I did a little breath work, and I sat down and I meditated. And that time, when that opportunity was presented to me, I was like, nope, we're going to, and when I mean this, when I say this, I mean this. I thought I was wasn't confident I was going to die, but I wasn't sure that I was not about to die in that room. Oh. And I decided, I'm going to find out, am I going to die or I'm going to learn something? And that complete surrender of my life was, I think, the way that, and that could have been done at any point before, but I wasn't willing to risk that, you know what I mean? And it was a risk. There was no fear, when I see this now, of actually physically dying. But that day, something did die. And that pulled me out of my psychic and conscious cognitive bubble and allowed me to see things more clearly. And I cracked up. I started laughing. It's like the entire time, all of this fear, worry, and concern was completely unfounded and unsupported. And here I am 10 years later talking to you. So
here we are. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What do you consider the self, man? Like, what are you?
Oh, man. Somebody hit me with that in another episode. I'll say the same thing. I don't know, man. And that's what this journey is all about, is uncovering that, like, what we are. Because that's the thing too, is it's like what I am, I've come to realize in my investigations, is more than just this meat suit. It's more than just the Gary that you guys see on screen and hear in your microphone or hear in your headphones. It's more than that. That's what I'm coming to find. And what that is, like, I'm you, I'm the listener. I am actually this desk. I am everything. That's what I can try to articulate, is that what I am is completely interconnected with all beings in the universe, with all things, inanimate objects. That's truly what I am. And I am not just this body. I am this body. I am Gary. But what I am is this self, this greater S self, which is essentially the entire universe, man. But what is that? Like, how can I articulate that? There's no words for it. I don't know. I truly don't know. Doesn't mean I give up the investigation for trying to figure out that. I think every day is an opportunity for that, to go within and to go without with people like you, and to try and find something out more about what this self is, what I am. But yeah, I've never truly figured it out. We'll never reach the point of what I am. You know, it's like it's a never finished state of perfection, if that makes sense. It's unending perfection, this unending novelty. That's what I am. And it's past even my bodily demise. It's past when I die. What I am is something that is truly infinite. It was before my bodily birth, after my death, and will continue forever onward. And yeah, I stay on that wavelength. Hopefully I did a decent job articulating it, but any words that I use truly go beyond what I am, man. You know, truly, all of us, because it's not just me, all of us, what we all are. Words do not do any sort of justice to what we are, the magnificence and miracle that we all are in this very moment. In this very moment.
It's important to answer this. Do you think it's an important question to answer, or do you think it's an unanswerable question?
I think it's both. I think it's an important thing to pursue. And in your pursuit, realize that you're never going to get an answer, and be okay with that. And I think that is a sort of touching upon the state of enlightenment. Don't like to use that word either. In a state of awakening, is realize that you're never going to get at an answer. And that's actually the good news. It's a good news that you're never going to figure this whole thing out. Imagine if you could say, I got it right here, right now. No, that's so boring. That's so dull. You never want to figure out the dream. You always want to keep this never-ending perfection going. You know, the show must go on. So yeah, stay on that wavelength of always questioning, always being curious, but be okay with never attaining perfection, I guess, in a certain sense, right? Or figuring out who you are, per se.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's an important pursuit, like you said. I think you said it perfectly. An important pursuit, but you should never delude yourself into believing that you have a definitive objective answer.
No, because that can be an attachment, right? That can be another identity, because essentially we pursue that to escape the identity of I'm Gary, I'm important, look at me. We do that essentially to try to get out of the ego. But I feel as though the last trap is making that into the ego, the spiritual ego, and which I see in a lot of people. So that's how I feel as though you get out of the spiritual ego. You get out of your original ego, and then you also negate the spiritual ego, as you realize you're never really gonna figure it out. But it doesn't mean you give up the seeking, per se. You know. And
seeking, the seeking is actually it. I think it's education is seeking. The degree is just a step in the seeking. Like, you're never educated. You never said, I'm educated now. I know all there is.
Yeah, I know
That'd
it
be
all.
absurd. Yeah. I'm done with education. Oh, really? No, that's an ongoing process. But the entire time you are in that process, I think there is a way to know. You just can't know with the mind.
Exactly.
It's an experience. You experience the truth of it. But this, I just really believe that this is incapable of encapsulating things that are literally beyond it. There's representation, symbols, but we can never think that the thoughts, words, and images we have in our mind are the actual thing.
Yeah.
You know, so
truly
that's
beyond it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think pursuing it without, like you said, getting attached or wrapped up in the object in our mind is the name of the game. But
amen.
Yeah, man.
Amen.
Yeah.
Man.
This was very, this is better than I thought it'd be. I thank you for
seriously, very insightful. Yeah, man, this is great. Keep doing your thing. You're a real one. I don't know, man. I get like a strange yet positive energy from you. I feel as though you should be a politician or a leader or something, because you're very well spoken in the way, and you seem to have a sort of conviction in the way that you speak. So I don't know if politics, especially in our system, is the right path for you, but at least some kind of leader. Use your voice to your best advantage, because you have just a natural resonance and a natural well-spokenness to who you are. So yeah, keep on keeping on, man. Seriously.
Thank you. All I need is some tech support and I'll be on my way. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's easy. That's easy to figure out. Yeah, but hey, we learn. It's a learning process in all facets of this whole thing we call life, for sure. Especially
Absolutely. I
Zoom.
really appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate that compliment. I mean, I really do. So you've talked to, you said how many people? 200 and something episodes?
It's a little over 200 now. Yeah.
Yeah, then you have the knowledge base and the awareness for that statement to be qualified as
Oh yeah,
meaningful. Thank you for that.
for sure.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
And
I've had my fair share of bad conversations, and I know which one's a good one off the bat, and I know which ones they're not going to make the cut. A lot of people haven't made the cut.
Oh, really? So you don't post them all?
No, I don't post them all just because if it's a bad conversation, it ain't gonna work, man. I'm sorry, but this one's gonna work. This was a good conversation. Yeah,
That's good, man.
yeah,
You said you felt high.
yeah, man. Yeah, in the midst of it, these things are sort of not like a drug, because that seems like an escape. It's actually the opposite of an escape. It's more of just like a higher state of mind. It literally past the thinking mind. It's hard to explain, but yeah, getting in these talks with people is my meditation. It is my way of just zoning in on the moment. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to balance that, because being the host, I have to think about where we're going. It's like sort of logical in that way, like, okay, or keep stuff in the back of my head. But then at times I find it tough because I'm trying to listen to you at the same time. So it's this weird simultaneous dance that I'm doing. And sometimes I get a little lost in the other person's words. I'm like, oh shit, okay, wait a sec, I gotta think of something, or I gotta bounce off of that somehow. So, but that just means it's a good talk. That just means you're a good speaker. If I can get lost in what you're saying and forget about who I am over here on this side of the camera, then that just is an ode to you.
I'm glad that you were able to understand all of that, because I get lost in my own words still, like, oh, that was good. And I start thinking about it. It's like, oh, I've never said that before. And then I'm like, oh, have I been speaking? Or I've been thinking of
Exactly.
But no, but you did really good you did a really good job carrying this and keeping it moving and keeping us focused. Man. I need a facilitator. I'll just talk unless somebody says, okay, hey, what about this or what about that? So it takes two to dance, right? It takes two.
Oh, so, amen. It takes two to tango, for sure. I've come to realize that. Well, hey, man.
You'll put this up next week or something, you said?
Yeah, maybe even a little bit. Oh, excuse me, even a little longer. I got like 3 or 4 podcasts I got to edit, and I'm doing more in the coming days. But yeah, it'll be up. That's for sure. Maybe in the next week and a half or something like that.
Sounds good, man.
I'll send it over to you. But I thank you for coming on here, man. Seriously,
Absolutely.
Keep doing your thing. Thank you for sharing your time, effort, and wisdom with me and anybody that listened this long. Seriously, keep on keeping on.
Anybody that listens this long, thank you for doing what you do. You have a good one.
Thank you, man. Peace and love.
Later.